What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so let's talk about this. All right, so this is something I saw the other day, and I meant to talk about this a couple of days ago, but I think I took a day off from YouTube. So we all remember the show Martin, the classic comedy that aired on Fox from 1992 to I believe 1997. In my opinion, the first three seasons of Martin were absolute classics. The fourth season was a little bit more hit and miss. The fifth season had its moments, but due to the tension between Tichina Arnold, excuse me, not Tichina Arnold, the tension between Tisha Campbell and Martin Lawrence, the fifth season didn't quite hit the spot for me, but it had its moments. And one of the bright spots about the fifth season was the emergence of Tichina Arnold as a comedic actress, and I'll get back to that in a moment. So this chick named Ari Lennox, I guess, who is a singer. I don't know who the hell she is, but that's just a generational thing. Okay, she was born in '91, so when Martin was on, she was essentially a baby to a toddler, for most of the run. So really, honestly, does she really have a great grasp of how Martin was relevant to our culture and how we all saw the show and how we saw the Martin and Pam dynamic? But anyway, she says that she's not a fan of the show because she sees Martin as bashing Pam unfairly because she's a dark-skinned woman, right? So more or less, that's what she said. She said that Martin was always attacking her looks and making jokes about her because she was a dark-skinned woman, right? And honestly, I don't think I've ever read or seen a situation where someone projected more of their own insecurities in a take than I think I've ever seen with something like that. Because, first of all, if you watch that show, if you know anything about the history of black comedies, the Martin and Pam dynamic to me mimicked the dynamic that we saw in other comedies. We've always had this dynamic where there was one character who was always snapping on another character. Okay. To me, I think the bigger influence of that was Sanford and Son, where you had Red Fox's character, Fred Sanford, always getting into it verbally with Aunt Esther, right? Then, of course, you had other comedies where the Jeffersons, where Florence was always getting into it verbally with George Jefferson, or What's Happening, where Rerun was always getting into it with Shirley. You know what I'm saying? That was something we always saw in the comedic dynamic. But, this is the thing, too. If you ever watch those shows, especially as the characters develop, and you get to see that it isn't just black and white, pardon the pun, you see that there's a relationship there. Yeah, they go in on each other, but it's love. It's there's real love and there's real affection there. Because if you remember that episode, there was an episode where some outsider was trying to make jokes about Pam, and the first person to defend Pam was Martin. He said, look, you don't know that sister like that, be making jokes about her like that. He was the first one to defend her. So there was actual real love there. They just showed it like that. That was just their relationship. They had one of the relationships where they snapped on each other. They were both comedians. If you really watch the goddamn show, Pam and Martin, their personas were comedians. They were like two comedians who snapped on each other. That's what they did. That's how they kind of showed their affection toward one another. Now, not a sexual affection, mind you, but just that's how they showed affection. Also, if you really also watch the show as it progressed, Pam oftentimes was winning in those exchanges. Now, of course, that could be due to the writing, of course, but obviously Martin would have to prove that because I think Martin was a little bit sensitive to that type of stuff because we heard a little bit of it. Damn, he always going in on Pam, right? Even though we found it hilarious, right? But I often found myself laughing harder at Pam's comebacks on Martin than vice versa, especially the one episode where I think she referred to Martin as a leprechaun, and then she literally got down on the ground as if she was 2 feet tall and put her eyes in the air and said, magically delicious. Because we know she was mocking the Lucky Charms commercials. Man, that was some hilarious shit to see a woman do what she was doing physically as a comedic actress. We didn't usually saw people, a woman as beautiful as her, do the things she did physically. Pam was funny as shit, man. You know what I'm saying? And she was sexy. And I'm gonna tell you another thing too, which I was trying to allude to earlier. In that last season, when Tisha Campbell was not available due to the legal issues that was going on between her and Martin Lawrence, and they said they would not do scenes together, I think until like the last episode or something. Because of that dynamic being lost with Gina, Pam had to appear in more episodes to fill in the gap. Pam had to fill in more plot holes. Fill in the plot holes, excuse me. So they had to do more with Pam. And if you watch that 5th season, if there's one thing that stood out in that rather mediocre season, the last one, was Tichina Arnold stepped up her game and she really helped to carry that last season. Because Martin kind of was, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but Martin kind of was a little off his game that last season. And I kind of attribute it to things going on in his personal life. And, I kind of got the feeling that Martin might have been on drugs. It's just me. The writing slipped a little bit in that last season, but I'm gonna tell you something. Tichina Arnold really helped to carry that damn show that last season. And if you remember, there was even a pilot episode that last season where she was going to have her own show. I think she was going to be an executive with was it a fashion agency or talent? No, I think it was a talent agency. She was going to be a high-ranking executive for a talent agency, but it never got picked up as a show. But it would have been a show that would have been a spinoff of Martin. So this notion about Martin was disrespectful to Pam was ridiculous. And then another thing I got to mention, Ari Lennox is talking about they would disrespect her as a dark-skinned woman. I don't ever recall. In the 5 years I watched that show from beginning to end, reruns upon reruns since it ended in 97, reruns upon reruns since then, the 25 plus years since it ended, right? Going on 30 years. I don't ever recall Martin making a joke about Pam being dark skinned. Ever. I don't recall that. I think that's more in your head. I think what it is you see Martin in a relationship with Gina and not with Pam. So somehow that's a rejection of Pam. She's not a romantic interest for Martin. But you do recall that she did get with Tommy, So, and she got other relationships. And it's not like Martin or others didn't make jokes about Gina with her big ass forehead. So I don't get that one at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that one at all. I think there's some insecurities that Ari Lennox got that are just made up. And, you know, and look, we all thought that both Tisha Campbell and Tichina Arnold were hot, man. But honestly, we all really, really thought that Pam was the one. Pam was the one. You know, Pam was the one that we all looked at was like, damn. Everybody wanted to be with Pam. So I don't get that one at all. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell what you guys think.